And welcome into a brand new edition of Embrace Debate. You can catch us every Monday morning live, 10:30 a.m. On the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel and across all of our platforms. The Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Follow that on Twitter at KP_. Actually, I don't remember the handle for it. I'll get it for you in a little bit. Desmond Johnson here. I'm your host. Cody and Monti in the house here with us. Every Monday morning we debate Carolina Panther-centric topics for you. Get your morning right. Get you off for the rest of your week. Gentlemen, how was your weekends?
Hey man, I'm here, brother. I survived the turn up of the weekend, so I'm here, man.
Cody, what's up?
Yeah,
man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, Monti almost didn't make it, man. He turned up this weekend.
Yeah, I went pretty hard this weekend, but I'm
here. He
here.
was at MIA for like 2 days there. We hadn't heard from him or nothing. We didn't know where he was. And he popped up this morning. It's like, yo, I'm here.
MIA.
Hey, man, I had to recover. I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not 21 anymore. I'm sorry. Let's say I'm not 21 anymore.
Just thinking about it.
But no, man, I'm happy to be here, man. I'm ready to do Monti like my man Tank Davis did Ryan Garcia. Hit him with that debate body blow and take him out. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do.
Hey, I'm not going out that easy.
It was so delayed. Literally like 3 seconds before it reached his brain. He's like, oh no, my liver's malfunctioning. He just to his needs.
Yeah, I was watching it at the bar I was at, and everybody was like, yo, what happened? You know, it happened so fast, and then we saw the replay, and I was like, oh, well, he definitely probably cracked a rib.
Because at first people thought that maybe the dude threw the fight or something like that, and then you go back and see the replay. It's like, nah, dude got his liver crushed.
Yeah, he had to look him in the eyes too. Oh, no. He looked up at him, and Tank was talking cash. Oh, that's such a bad way to go out, man.
The look up was the worst because he's looking at him like, why'd you do that to me? Like, why'd you do that to me? Like, I wasn't waiting for it. So we'll get you right into it here. We usually dive right in. If you've got a take or something you want the fellas to debate, you can actually participate in this either on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Facebook watch or on the YouTube channel at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. In the comments section, you can actually put in a take there and actually do it there. Just don't care. Ask, how can we donate to the channel, brother? I will get with you later. We will we will discuss what you can do to help out there as we continue to grow each week. Shout out to the C3 family. Cody's folks are checking in with us over here. And of course, Monti from the 4-Man Rush. Your boys, Kevin and Smooth, they're going to be putting together something, Trench Warfare, that'll be coming to the podcast network soon, where if you guys love X's and O's and really breaking down film and the guys in the offense and defensive lines, that show is going to be for you. And that's coming up here soon. We'll get you some details on that as well. It is draft week. It's finally here. First round is Thursday. NFL Network and ESPN with joint coverage. We'll get into all that stuff. Let's just get into the very first question for today. We kind of have an idea who the first quarterback's going to be based off of what we heard over the past week. It feels like Bryce Young is going to be that dude at number 1 for Carolina. The question I have, who will be the second quarterback off the board in the 2023 NFL draft? Because while Bryce Young has kind of solidified his first overall pick status, there's some movement behind him in terms of CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and there's some needy quarterbacks behind us as well. Who goes off the board second? Not necessarily second overall, but who's the second one taken after Bryce Young in the NFL draft? Monti, let's start off with you.
It's going to be a toss-up between Anthony Richardson, and CJ Stroud. I'm leaning towards CJ Stroud just because he is the more prototypical, and between the two, I believe more pro-ready quarterback. I think there's a strong argument for both. I think that CJ Stroud definitely checks all the boxes what you're looking for, as like we were saying, the prototypical quarterback, has the arm strength, has the accuracy downfield. I think that he, me and Cody went back and forth about this. He's very underrated under pressure, especially, and he's an assassin on third down. So I think that he has a very strong argument for the second quarterback off the board. I think Anthony Richardson in that upside is where where that argument is going to get close. Where we're going to bridge the gap with that argument. I'm going with CJ Stroud, though. I think I've been high on CJ Stroud all year. Bryce is my guy, but I think CJ Stroud is going to be the second quarterback.
Cody, same question. Who in your mind should be the second quarterback off the board in the 2023 NFL draft behind Bryce Young?
So look, man, the answer should be CJ Stroud. But you know what? it's probably going to be that mayonnaise monster, Will Levis. If you look at all of the the betting odds, the betting favorites, they have both Will Anderson and Will Levis at better odds to be picked by the Houston Texans than CJ Stroud, and it's blasphemy, man. I want to go on record. If the Houston Texans trade the number 2 overall pick, let alone to a division rival like the Indianapolis Colts or the Tennessee Titans, I hope CJ Stroud burns them alive for years to come in their own division. CJ Stroud, in my opinion, might be the best quarterback in this draft. Like, I think all this S2 score crap is bogus. I feel like it's being devalued for something that isn't related to football at all whatsoever. It should be CJ Stroud, but this smear campaign against CJ right now is something like I've never seen before, man. So even though he should be the number 2 quarterback, I don't think he's going to be, man.
I actually had that as a bonus question. I didn't write it up here. Those C2 cognitive scores leaked out a couple of days ago, and CJ Stroud kind of took a hit off of it. Bryce Young scored 98 percentile. I think Hendon Hooker scored like at 48%. Anthony Richardson was in the 70s. Then you have this weird case of CJ Stroud where he apparently scored in the 18 percentile. Yeah. And because of that, it's made it where this isn't the Wonderlic. This is like a, from my understanding, it's like a test to like how fast do you process things like on the field or just in general or whatever. 98 percentile sounds like almost like artificial intelligence. Like, are you real, Bryce Johnson, or are you like some kind of cyborg or something? 18% sounds like, how are you able to walk around and like?
That's
how are you on the field? Yeah, how are you on the field Saturday?
Everyone's making it sound like he's dumb or something. And
like I don't think he's dumb. It just I don't know. It's real. How do you have to try to score an 18? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I know these billionaire owners swear by the S2 test now. But let's keep it a buck, man. We're not talking football anymore. Like, what you're able to do on the field and what you're able to do on an S2 test, it's like there's a saying, correlation does not equal causation. And to me, this is a perfect example of that. And it's just a way to slander a very talented young player who has a ton of potential in the NFL, I believe.
Yeah, it's terrible timing. I'm sorry, Des. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's terrible timing, definitely. You know, I agree. I think we're putting too much into it. You know, the further we get away from the season, the less and less we're starting to talk about football. And now stuff like the S2 test, you know, it takes precedent, and I think that's garbage. Now I will say this: it's not enough information, in my opinion, for us to have an opinion either way. I mean, because I feel like the few quarterbacks that have taken the test today that have done well it sounds like it's translated onto the field in the NFL, but I don't think it's a small sample size, for us to have a hard opinion on it. And the guys in the 4-man rush, we were just talking about this a few days ago. When information comes out like this, players are just going to just opt out of taking the test, because again, it is, right. All you're going to do is just slander the player for not testing well, and then that eventually is going to hurt their stock. Players are just going to say, screw this, I'm not going to take it. And, I feel like that's kind of where we're at now. And it's terrible for CJ Stroud, man, because he went from being arguably the quarterback 1 to now we're talking about quarterback 3, with Will Levis.
There's always, no matter the year, there's always a quarterback in the group of quarterbacks that we have that drops. And we never know which one it's going to be. Like right now, it feels like Will Levis should be the one that drops, but it's probably going to be CJ Stroud. Like I wouldn't be surprised. How surprised would you be if we're watching the first round of the draft and we're at like pick 15 and CJ Stroud is still on the board?
God, I mean that means he would have to fall past the Patriots.
He'd have to go past Seattle twice. The Houston twice.
I mean, I don't know. I still believe that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I just think that he's going to fall a little bit. And hey, maybe that's the best thing for him. Maybe he'll go to a better landing spot because of it. Dude, if the Texans pass on him, That is a dumpster fire organization that deserves every bad thing that's getting ready to happen to them.
All the bad things to happen to you, your organization.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Houston needs everything. So if they try to justify not getting a quarterback in this draft because they're looking at next year's draft, they don't know what it's going to be next year. People were talking about this last
and
year.
You have 2 first-round picks. It's hard to miss on a quarterback this year.
So we'll see if they decide to pull the trigger on one of those. But yeah, it looks like CJ Stroud might be the one that falls here. Cody and Monti in the house here. Embrace Debate every Monday live 10:30 a.m. Getting you ready for the rest of your work week, Panthers style. Let's switch it up a little bit. Outside of the Carolina Panthers, which NFC South team is the biggest threat to win the NFC South and why? Cody, let's start off with you on that one there. Which one of those three are you kind of side-eyeing right now?
Yeah, to me, it's New Orleans. And listen, everybody likes to make fun of Derek Carr, call him an average quarterback. And it kind of has been an average quarterback that flashed some higher upside from time to time. But one of the things that the Saints are way better at doing than the Raiders is protecting their quarterback. They've made a lot of investments on the offensive line. And now you look at the weapons that they have. They have Michael Thomas coming back. Chris Olave is going to be there for him. Like, they have the players and the talent on offense to be able to compete. And you add Alvin Kamara. You know they're going to be dynamic. Right now, I mean, listen, the NFC South is down bad. But if I had to pick one team that was going to give the Panthers a legitimate contest this year, to me, it has to be New Orleans.
Your thoughts on this, Monti? Just surveying the NFC South, I think maybe because of the super aggressiveness of Carolina, it's kind of made me not pay as much attention to the rest of the NFC South, or maybe they just haven't done as much as what we've done. The other 3 squads out there, which is the one you're kind of looking at as the one that could potentially contend? Because I feel like Carolina is going to be contending for the division this year with all the things that they've changed.
Yeah, the South is definitely down bad this year. As as Cody said, I think we definitely have the upper hand in that division, or in our division so far. It's going to be a toss-up between New Orleans and Atlanta for me, and I'm going to probably side with Atlanta. I think Atlanta has just as the pieces as well. I think they're a little younger offensively than New Orleans. I think that Kyle Pitts is due for another good big year if they can figure out the quarterback position. I think they like Taylor Heineke. I'm on the fence with Taylor Heineke. I feel like he's a solid quarterback, or can be a solid quarterback, for a short period of time there. I think that Drake London is going to be a solid receiver, and then you add Cordero Peterson, or Patterson, that can run the ball down your throat. I feel like they have the pieces offensively to where they can definitely give us a run for our money here. The biggest question for me is how they're going to look defensively. I feel like they definitely invested money on the defensive side there. I think Jesse Bates is a great signer for them. So I'm going to side with Atlanta. I think that we walk away with this division, though. I think that's another question for another day. But I think that we walk away with this division.
The actual addendum to this question from one of our viewers and fans, Ian Reuter: hypothetical, if an NFC South team traded up to number 2, which quarterback would you be most afraid of or least afraid of to have in the division, assuming that Bryce goes number 1? That's actually a pretty good question.
Oh, this is easy for me. This is easy for me, and it's actually a tell to one of the future answers I'm going to give to one of your questions you're going to ask. But to me, let me tell you, man, if Anthony Richardson ended up with the Falcons, bro, I'm just saying, man, like. I've been calling it. Do not be surprised if Atlanta's picking 3rd. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Anthony Richardson fits the mold of Atlanta a little bit more. I agree with that. I feel like he would fit the mold of what of especially that young offense. They got the tailback that they got in Patterson. Then they got the young pieces outside. I honestly think CJ Stroud would be the scariest in my opinion. Seeing him throw the ball to Kyle Pitts for the next 10 years, throw the ball to Drake London for the next 10 years, that scares me a little bit more than Anthony Richardson. To me, and this is where I feel I love Anthony Richardson. I've been high on him, since last year. I think we haven't seen quarterbacks with his skill set translate more than we've seen pocket passers in the league. And that's kind of. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. That was basically, and I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a good quarterback. we haven't seen a bunch of elite athletic quarterbacks translate more than we've seen pocket passers. And I think in the right system, if they could protect CJ Stroud in Atlanta, he could be a little scarier, in my opinion, than Anthony Richardson.
I'll be completely honest. The quarterback that I'd be the most worried about in the NFC South isn't any of the quarterbacks that we've been talking about in this top four. It's Hendon Hooker. Like, I don't want Hendon Hooker in this division. Like, I keep having this nightmare of Hendon Hooker somehow landing with Tampa and having a bridge year to kind of just get right while they kind of rebuild around him. And he's going to be 27 or whatever with a rebuilt Tampa team around him all of a sudden. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Like, it feels like Tampa or Atlanta. I could see him in Atlanta too. Like, if Atlanta takes a chance on him just to see, they give Ritter another year. If that don't work out, he was a 3rd round pick to begin with. Hooker is going to be a starter in this league, and I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league once he's right. I don't want him in this division. I would like to have him. Actually, I wanted Hendon Hooker before we traded up to number 1. I was already kind of plotting, well, why don't we do this in the first round and pick him up in the second? But he's already started to push into the first. Like, I don't think Hooker's going to last past mid-first round, probably, especially with some of these teams that have multiple picks in the first round. I could easily see Seattle or Houston taking a shot on him and letting them sit because they've got situations where they can. You know, Seattle's got Geno Smith.
Like, imagine New Orleans. I mean, they're picking 28. If Hendon Hooker's on the board, sit him for 2 years behind Derek Carr, then you've got that receiving core. Hey, man, I'm just saying that could be
him. I swear, it's going to be him. Like, he's going to end up in this division, and we're going to look at it like, oh, man.
Like, we passed on him, yeah.
Who invited him in here? Let's talk about the guy that's going to be at the top of the draft, apparently. Bryce Young, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, who's been making the media rounds the past week. And I got to commend him and his staff, the people around him, because they have done an excellent job of framing why this kid should be the number 1 pick in the draft just over the past 7 days. I've watched him on the Pivot podcast. I know he was on Steve Smith's podcast, Cut to It. I read a Sports Illustrated article on him last night that was about his parents and how he's raised and how he's dealt with his size his whole life and just how he's wired. Like, you really get to see inside of the mind of Bryce Young, where I'm like, okay, because I had to do this with Cam too. I wasn't too sure on Cam until like right up to the draft, and I'd heard enough and seen enough. I'm like, okay, I would follow that guy. Bryce has got that in him. You want to follow him, and he said last week he wouldn't mind former Panther quarterback Cam Newton being his backup after Cam put out that list saying that these are the places he would prefer to go to back up. Was that all cap on Bryce Young's part? And would you want to see Cam Newton here again in a 3rd tour of duty as a backup to Bryce Young? Monty, let's start with you.
Do I think it's cap? No. I think that there's some real intention there. If he was definitely brought in, I think that he would love to play. In my opinion, what rookie quarterback wouldn't love to sit behind or have Cam sit behind them? To be honest, Cam Newton as the biggest cheerleader on the sideline as for my quarterback backup, that would be dope. I absolutely believe that. He would love to play behind or play with Cam. Do I think that Cam would sign up to be for a 3rd tour of Carolina? No. Nor do I honestly want to see Cam back in Carolina, man. I love Cam, and I hate to see him go out the way he's been going out. But would I want him to be no, I just don't. The nostalgia is gone. I don't want to see him in the Panther blue anymore unless he's retiring. I want my new quarterback to. I mean, I feel like he's already ready. I don't think that. I think it's more for fans and the nostalgia part wanting Cam back than it is anything for him helping Bryce develop as a quarterback. But again, what rookie quarterback wouldn't want Cam on the sideline? And I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
But you got to think too with these quarterbacks that are coming out. This is 2023. Cam was a rookie in 2011. They grew up watching Cam Newton. Like he is their Mike Vick, or he is their guy. Like that they grew up like Pat Mahomes. They didn't grow up watching him. Like Pat Mahomes just burst on the scene 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
6 years ago. Whereas Cam influenced Pat Mahomes, coming out.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys even come out and say that, that like Anthony Richardson being one of them, saying, he grew up watching Cam, grew up idolizing Cam. So yeah, I think he would love to play with Cam. I don't think any rookie quarterback wouldn't love to have Cam on the sideline. I just don't want to see him back in Carolina. That's kind of just where I'm at with it.
Cody, your thoughts on this? Because I know you're a huge Cam Newton fan, as all three of us are. But I think Matt Rule kind of took the scent off the
did him
off the
dirty.
flower.
Yeah, did him super dirty. Yeah, he absolutely did. I'm gonna be real. I think Bryce was capping a little bit. I think he was giving the politically correct interview answer because it's like all everyone talks about now is him being 5'10", 190 pounds. Okay, well then you're gonna bring back Cam Newton, 6'5", 245 pounds, like having them right next to each other. It's like, yo, wait, that's the guy that we drafted? He's so tiny out there, bro. But I mean, listen, I'm sure that he would, he wouldn't have anything bad to say if Cam Newton came to Carolina. I'm sure they would have a great relationship. Both of those guys are very agreeable dudes. So that's not outside of the realm of possibility to me. But just knowing the type of quarterback room that we have right now, we have Andy Dalton and Matt Corral, who is criminally undervalued by Panther fans and by Panthers Twitter in general. That's the perfect backup quarterback for the system that we plan to run. So I think that there's too many cooks in the kitchen right now, and Cam being such a big presence in the locker room, but also so many people in Charlotte still love Cam and wish that he was the quarterback over everyone else. So it's like fans are already so divided about the draft debates that we've been having. It's time to unify around the number one draft pick.
It's a new era. It's a new regime. I get it. I kind of agree with you, Cody, that it felt more like it was the politically correct. I mean, what's he supposed to say? Like, nah, ew, Cam Newton. I don't want him
I don't want to. Yeah, come on.
And then end up in Carolina and have to deal with that like every Sunday when he walks out into the field. So I think he made the right soundbite, which is another reason why I like Bryce, because everything I've seen in front of the camera with this kid, he just seems polished. Like he knows what to say, and his confidence like just screams out at you. Like when you're seeing him talk about himself or his abilities or the ability to win, lead, whatever, it really does remind me of Steph Curry to a certain extent in terms of just how he talks and how he handles himself. And like he knows there's going to be doubters out there and people talking about him and his size and everything else, but he never lets it affect his play. Like, in fact, he almost uses it to his advantage. Like you're looking at him a certain way and all of a sudden he pops you with a 60-yard touchdown or something. You're like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. But yeah, he can do that and more. So that's kind of him. As for Cam, yeah, man, I'm done. I'm one of the biggest Cam Newton fans on earth. Cam is probably one of my top 3 favorite NFL players of all time. Like he's up there with like Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders for me. Like in terms of just how he changed the game. Plus he's ours. You know, like the Panthers didn't have anybody at Cam's stature until Cam got here in the team history. So everything he did, the ride he took us on, I've always said I would rather have 7 years of that Cam Newton than 15 years of a Cam Newton trying to save his body, you know, because that wouldn't be Cam Newton. It would be something else entirely. So I said Cam should retire after he was here in 2021. There's nothing left for you to prove. And I meant to, you know what? We're gonna do that right now. Who is Cam Newton a first ballot Hall of Famer? Because we were talking about it last week, and I didn't write it out, but based on his resume, if you go and look up Cam Newton's Wikipedia page and you go look at what he's done, and I'll go pull up the records in a little bit while you guys debate this, but is Cam Newton a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer? Who wants to take a crack at that one?
I'll say no.
Yeah,
and I hate it.
Okay, go ahead,
I hate it, and I hate that with a passion. But I'll say no. And to me, the reason I hate it so much is because we had an organization that refused to put the proper offensive line around him and refused to put the right weapons around him. I mean, the dude's number 1 and number 2 for a long period of time was Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess. Neither of them are playing pro football anymore. So, you know, if you're not a Panthers fan, you look at Cam Newton as like a 1 or 2 year wonder. Like you look at that 2015 MVP season, and then you say, okay, he was a bust after that. He was inaccurate. He was this and that. I don't know if there was another quarterback that could have played in this system doing the things that Cam Newton was asked to do and have the same level of success that Cam Newton did have. Do I think he's going to make the Hall of Fame? No, I don't think he played long enough, and I don't think he had that Super Bowl ring. Now, maybe if he won in 2015, if the Panthers win that game, I would say, yeah, maybe he has a chance. But if Steve Smith is not first ballot, nah, I don't. Sadly, man, I don't think Ace is either.
Yeah, I agree with Cody. And like you said, I hate to say it, as being a diehard Cam Newton fan, I think that it's kind of the time that he missed that. I feel like those years where he missed those are going to be vital in and why we don't look at him as because you got to think about it. 2 years after the Super Bowl, we're back into the playoffs, and I feel like we saw the best version of Cam Newton, or one of the best versions we've seen in Cam Newton. And after that, we hadn't seen that version of Cam Newton ever again. We started off with 6-2, 2018. We had he had the shoulder injury at Pittsburgh, and from there, we hadn't seen, a version of Cam even close to that, and I feel like that's going to be very vital in why we don't look at him as a Hall of Famer. He didn't play long enough. I feel like that's going to play a factor in it. And, I think I feel like he's going to fall into that factor. The same tier of Donovan McNabb and, Michael Vick, where, they definitely were talented enough, definitely have some, in some regards have the numbers to make an argument for being a Hall of Famer. I just don't think that he's going to make they're going to make that jump. He's definitely transcended the game in the quarterback position, though. I feel like that always gets overlooked. We don't talk about the new era of quarterback that Cam has ushered into, over the last 5 to 10 years. Cam Newton has his fingers all over this new class of quarterback. And, I feel like we don't talk about that enough, but I think he's going to make the Hall. I doubt it, man.
See, I love when this topic comes up, and I'm glad both of you guys said no, because I'm always on the other side. And then I always have to go to Cam Newton's Wikipedia to prove my point on it. This dude has so many records. People aren't even aware of some of the records that Cam Newton actually has that may never be broken. So whenever this conversation comes up and I'm like, is Cam Newton a first ballot Hall of Famer? The original gut reaction is no. But then when you start looking at what he did, it's like, maybe. NFL MVP 2015, NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 2015. He was the 10-time Offensive Player of the Week. I think that was 2015 as well. Of course, won the Heisman. Just some of the records. He's got the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in NFL history with 75 right now. Most passing yards by a QB in his first 2 games. Most games in NFL history with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown with 32. Most Player of the Week awards, first player in NFL history, and most games with at least 250 passing yards, 100 rushing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown in a single game. He's got 2 of those. He's most games in a single season with at least 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. He's got 8 of those. Only player in NFL history with at least 30 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns in the same season. That was the 2015 season. And it just goes on and on and on. Most passing yards by a quarterback in their debut.
I think he's the only quarterback with 3 10-touchdown seasons, 10 rushing touchdown seasons. I think he's the only quarterback that's done that as well. Yeah, man, Cam got arguments.
So many. It's first player in NFL history with 4,000 passing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns in a season.
He broke the rookie passing touchdown record. I mean, it has since been broken, but Cam broke that his first year,
and that was Peyton Manning's record at that. So I mean, I always like to throw that in there. Like, he broke Peyton Manning's passing record his rookie season, so that's big.
First, I'm still digging through for first player in Super Bowl era to pass for 300 yards and rush for multiple touchdowns in a playoff game. Most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in his first 4 seasons. Like, I mean,
you're making it compelling, Des. Definitely.
I mean, Bill Parcells. I always use this. Bill Parcells has always said, if you were the best in the NFL for 1 season, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. If you ever won the MVP award in the NFL, that means you were the best at what you do for an entire season. And if that's the case, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Cam's 2015 MVP season, I'll put that up against almost anybody's MVP season in terms of just how dominant he was that season. Like, he was a vibe. Like, you could not stop the dude. And
especially comparative to the offense he had around him, to other MVPs. Yeah, it's an argument, man.
Carried them. And they were the number 1 scoring team in the league that year. Like, and it was all Cam. Like, it was all Cam. I just find it hard. First ballot, that might be a little hard. But if you look at the impact he's had on the game, like you guys said, the Steph Curry effect, I guess you could say, in terms of how the game has changed. We just saw Jalen Hurts get $255 million playing like Cam Newton. Like, he is
wearing number 1.
He's evolved the game of football where at all levels, pro, college, and high school, where They're now more prone to look for guys that can do the same stuff that Cam Newton can do. So I think that counts for something. I don't know if that'll mean he gets into the Hall of Fame, but it should, if the Hall of Fame is based off of how famous you were, how good you were at what you did.
Yeah, and to add on top of what Maya was saying with the amount of people that he's inspired, if you look at the big, strong quarterbacks that we have in the NFL right now, guys like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and now Anthony Richardson coming out, he was the first real prototype of that type of player that did everything at a high level, throwing the football, running the football, just being in control of the offense. Cam Newton was the prototype, and now you're seeing more of those types of players feel like, oh, okay, well, maybe before I would have played tight end, but no, man, let me go get that quarterback money. Let me put the ball in my hand more than just being a pass catcher or a running back. Yeah, he has inspired a generation of quarterbacks. I hope it happens, man. I don't know if it will. I hope it does.
Hey, we'll probably get a chance to do it in the summer a little bit too, and go a little bit more in depth with this. But yeah, as we were talking about it, I was just like, I was happy when both y'all went the other way, because I'm like, I'm all team first ballot for Cam just from pouring over his stats. I'm like,
I hope, man.
Hey, fellas, and I'll say this: he might not be in some regard, I guess, the best quarterback in the NFL, but when you look over his career as a football player, you can make the argument he's one of the better football players that have ever graced the football field ever. He's won in high school, he's won in college, he's won in junior college, he's won in, he's took a team to the NFL, to the Super Bowl. He's an MVP. So when you just look at the totality of his career from high school to now, he's one of the best players that have ever touched the football field ever. And I will stand firm on that.
And if you think about it too, on top of what you just said, Monty, he kind of had to carry those teams too, because that Auburn team had no business to be in the national championship game. You take him off that roster, they are not national championship contenders. You take them off the 2015 Carolina Panthers, I'm pretty sure they're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. Shout out to my boy Jay Stu, but I don't think y'all are making it there with who's the backup?
Derek Anderson.
Yeah. I don't think Derek Anderson.
Jay Stu would probably say the same thing. Jay would probably agree with you.
He probably would say nothing, just to be correct with both sides. He's friends with all of them, but he, in his mind, I'm sure he'd probably be like, yeah, you're probably right. I know we're running short on time. I replaced the cornerback question with that one because I thought it was pretty juicy. Let's hit NFL draft outside of Carolina. Which team in the top 10 do you think should be the most aggressive in the draft this weekend? Not the team you think will be the most aggressive, but looking in the top 10, which one should be the most aggressive in order to take their team to the next level? Monty, let's start with you.
I'm gonna go Seattle. I think Seattle, they have the pieces in place. You can argue they're either a quarterback away, or they're a few pieces on defense away from being a very, very good team. I feel like that division is wide open right now. We don't know the quarterback situation with San Francisco. LA is spiraling. We don't know how LA is going to be. And gosh, what's the other I just can't drew a blank. Either way, I think Seattle should be the most aggressive. I think they have the pieces in place. And for, let's say this, if Anthony Richardson goes to Seattle, sits behind Geno Smith for a year, and then starts and has to throw the ball to DK Metcalf and Tyler, Tyler Lockett, that's scary. You were talking about something being spooky. That fits. He fits Seattle just as much as I think he will fit Atlanta. So I think Seattle have a few pieces, and they're in a position to where they can be very good next year.
Cody, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it needs to be the Atlanta Falcons, and they probably won't because it's the Falcons and they don't ever do what they need to. But I said this earlier. Imagine if they traded up to number 3 and drafted Anthony Richardson. They know that the Saints got Derek Carr. They know that the Panthers are picking number 1. They're going to get their pick of the litter of the quarterback that they want. And Arthur Smith came from Tennessee. Like, that is the type of offense that Anthony Richardson would thrive in. I mean, you could drop him in there and you would be able to roll offensively and do a bunch of different things. I know they have Desmond Ridder as their quarterback, but I mean, if you have the potential to grab somebody like an Anthony Richardson, and let's be real, those Atlanta Falcons home games, they don't have a lot of fans in the stands. Atlanta has to do what the Panthers are doing, really get some excitement around that football team. and make a move and be aggressive this year before the rest of their division compatriots run away from them. So I think it should be Atlanta. I don't know if they will, but they probably should.
I'm thinking it should be one of these two teams that have 2 picks in the top 12, either Seattle or Houston. Houston needs everything. Seattle's in a situation where they're set to, if they do this right, they're set to basically rebuild this team in 2 years.
Absolutely.
But they're in the NFC West, so they're dealing with the 49ers, who, in my opinion, are probably the best team in football. Like, if they didn't run out of quarterbacks, they're probably going to beat the Eagles in the playoffs, in my opinion. But they just literally went through 4 quarterbacks, and even then was still trying to fight with Christian McCaffrey back there. So it's like, I don't know, that division is going to be tough. It's different over here in the South because it's wide open. Yeah, Derek Carr's here, but has he won a playoff game in his career? Or I think he's only won 1 or something like that.
No.
And that's like 9 years worth. Dennis Allen, the coach in New Orleans, has not won a playoff game or had a winning season, I don't believe, because he was the coach of the Raiders for a couple of years. In Tampa, nobody knows exactly what they're doing. They're kind of in a standstill holding pattern. Baker Mayfield got signed, but I don't think he's going to start. I think they're going to start with Kyle Trask. So there goes that. And then Atlanta with Desmond Ridder, he's a second-year guy. They're still very young. They got holes all over the place. Carolina was already in a position at the end of last year showing flashes that next year they could do something. And then they nailed everything they needed to nail leading up to this point. The coaching selections, the free agency. They're set up to do it next year. Maybe the other 3 teams kind of punt on the season, and it's like, well, we're going to use this season to rebuild. Carolina's too far ahead, but one quarterback choice could change all that. Atlanta, Anthony Richardson does sound kind of scary. Again, I'm still under the mindset that Hendon Hooker's going to end up in the NFC South, and it's going to be with one of these teams we don't want him to be with, and he's going to be the problem that we have for the next 8 years. Bryce Young versus Hendon Hooker in the conference. So I don't like that thought. I hate to end it on that thought, but I think that's where it's going to be. Any final thoughts from you guys before we head into it? Because this will be our last show before the draft starts on Thursday.
I'm just ready for the draft to be over with, man. I'm ready to throw my support behind this quarterback, whoever it is. I believe, if it's Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Anthony Richardson, we got the best QB room in the NFL. When you consider Andy Dalton and Matt Corral, I know everybody's pumped up, and this is the start of a new era of Carolina Panther football, and I'm excited to be making content in this era of Panthers football. Happy to be here with y'all, and happy for all the people that hang out with us in the chat. And that's it, man. Happy to be here.
What's up, Monty? Any final thoughts before we get you out of here for this Monday?
Yeah, man. I'm like Cody. I'm happy. This is draft week. Got a couple days here before we get our new franchise quarterback. I believe it's going to be Bryce Young. I'm very excited to see what this new era comes with. I think that this new coaching staff is definitely going to. I think we're in great hands. Let's just say that. I think we're definitely in great hands moving forward. Definitely been a pleasure to always to do this weekly with you fellas, guys. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to what comes next.
It's Embrace Debate's growing. The Keep Pounding Podcast Network is growing over on Fans First Sports Network. Shout out to everybody on here that's found us. Go to Twitter, find us there. It's KP_Pounding Network. You can follow us there for the latest. And then also you can find us on all your major podcast platforms: Spotify, Google, iTunes, Stitcher, Megaphone. You can find us on there as well, so you can take it with you on your phone. We'll actually answer this question probably next week after the draft is over. Willie Smith, Panther superfan, says, how close are the Panthers away from winning the NFC and the Super Bowl? We will have that answer for you next week, Willie, because we'll see what we did in the draft. We'll be back next Monday with a recap episode of the draft. We'll look at I can't say how many picks we'll have because Fetti's going to be busy this weekend probably. So we'll see how many. We got 6 as it stands right now. So we'll see what happens with that as we get through the weekend. We'll get you ready for that, and then we'll tell you what's going to be happening as we get into the off season here. So for Cody, for Monty, I'm Des. You've been watching Embrace Debate Carolina Panthers here on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Keep pounding, guys.